The end of homecoming week, the robotics team prepares for competition, a local Cuban food giant, and rumors of Deshaun Watson getting traded. All this and more on this episode of WBLN.
What's up, Wolverines? I'm Matthew Barturin.
And I'm Jake Camejo.
And here's your news for today. As we move into the last days of homecoming week, yesterday the blue team garnered extra points on the talents of our very own Adrian Fraga in a karaoke match in the dining hall. Here's a clip.
Every turn I take, every trail I track, every path I make, every road leads back to the place I know where I cannot go, where I long to be. See the light from the sky is the sea, make all speed.
You may not know, but our robotics team competes all around the state and is gearing up for the start of their season. WBLN middle school reporter Diego Martinez brings us this story.
Since the beginning of the year, the Belen Robotics Club has been actively preparing for this year's upcoming fixed robotics competition.
So this year's competition is interesting because I always say that robotics annually is like a sport that changes the rules every year. Now what's interesting is that this year the robots are basically being built to play basketball. So there's balls on the field and there's a center pole where the robots have to actually score points into. And it's really cool because it's a simple concept. All of our boys have played basketball, but they have to figure out how to build a robot to make it work. So it can be very complicated or very simple depending on the design that they choose.
The team is optimistic about being able to score and win.
I feel hopeful that our team will win because our robot has a lot of different sections that it will be capable of being able to pick up balls and putting it into like the net. And I think we will be able to score a lot of points.
The robotics team isn't only teaching competition, but laying the groundwork for students in the future.
I just like building stuff. When I grow up, I want to go to MIT and I want to be an engineer.
For WBLN in the middle, I am Diego Martinez.
A local Cuban food giant, Casavana, tells us how they grew up from the ground up. Lucas Bogardis tells us more.
Casavana is home to some of the greatest Cuban-American food you can find in Miami and famous for its homey and welcoming feeling. But where did it begin?
We started the restaurant like 15 years ago. Actually, at that time, we were the owners also of Sergio's restaurant. So we decided to part company with the partners that we had over there. So we actually, we walk away and then we built the Casavana trip.
Although Casavana is popular now, it had to grow to where it is today.
It evolved actually. When I was in my 18s or early 20s, I started working in the restaurant business in the Latin American. From there, I started opening all the restaurants in Latin America. And then from there, I started working for Felipe Bal, which was the owners of Carretas and Versailles and all those restaurants. After that, I started opening Pollo Tropical with my brother. And then we opened like 65 of them, and after that we went on our own and we started doing restaurants that we were the owners. I would say that we're more the Miami culture. When I first came into Miami in the 70s, it was really Cuban, a Cuban city, but it has evolved. It's no longer like a Cuban city. It's actually if you look at the menu, we have influence from all over the place. From I would say Peruvian, Nicaraguan, Colombian, everything. It gets into we're more like a Miami restaurant. The food is actually rice, beans, the pan con bistec, wraps.
Whether it's to enjoy a savory Cuban meal or to have a cafecito, Casavana is definitely a place to visit. For WBLN, I'm Lucas Bogardis.
A Canadian food truck is getting creative with social distancing. East Coast Donair in New Brunswick is delivering meals using remote-controlled monster trucks. The pair of vehicles are scale models. The food truck got the idea from a worker who owns a remote-controlled car. They hitched a trailer to the back of it, put the order on the trailer, and sent it to the waiting patrons. East Coast Donair says that their unique version of contactless delivery is a big hit with customers, especially the young ones.
An amazing and historic treasure found at the bottom of the sea where it's been waiting for 900 years. Our in-house reporter Chris Bio tells us more.
An incredible discovery made at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea is captivating historians in the Middle East. A 900-year-old sword encrusted by marine life was found on the sea floor off the coast of Israel. It was discovered by amateur scuba diver Shlomi Katzin during a weekend dive that yielded multiple historic artifacts. The sword was turned over to government authorities for examination. They believe it is made of iron and that it was perfectly preserved in its watery grave. They also say they believe this nearly millennium-old sword was once owned by a Crusader knight. The country's Antiquities Authority plans to eventually put the age-old sunken treasure on display for public viewing.
What's up, Wolverines? I'm Ben Romanach, and here are your sports for today. Remember that your varsity football team is up against Miami Sunset in the homecoming game tomorrow. All students are encouraged to take part in the blue and gold student sections. Let's roll on to the pros. Your Miami Heat face off at home against the Bucks tonight. The game is their first of the regular season, and they look to get revenge on Giannis Antetokounmpo and crew, who swept the Heat in last year's playoffs. Trade talks between the Miami Dolphins and Houston Texans for superstar quarterback Deshaun Watson are heating up. More reliable sources have suggested that the two teams are relatively on the same page. Some suggest that the deal can be done by the end of the week, if not by the November 2nd trade deadline. Some reports also suggest that it will be a 3-team trade, the other potential teams being mentioned being the Denver Broncos and Washington football team. However, Watson does have about 20 sexual assault allegations, and that will continue to be a major question mark going forward. Tonight, the Denver Broncos travel to Cleveland to take on the Browns on Thursday Night Football. This is a very important game for both the teams as they currently sit at 3-3. The Atlanta Braves take on the Los Angeles Dodgers tonight in Game 4 of the NLCS. The Braves took a 3-1 lead in the NLCS, largely because of the amount of hits they got last night. Eddie Rosario led the team with 4 hits and 4 RBIs. The Houston Astros take the lead 3-2 yesterday in the ALCS versus the Boston Red Sox. They were led by Yuli Gurriel and Jordan Alvarez, who both had 3 RBIs in last night's game in a 9-1 demolition. That's all for sports. Now back to the guys at the desk.
Thanks, Ben. That's all the news for today. Remember to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
And remember to stay safe
And stay golden, Wolverines.